Welcome back to our weekly Agent Spotlight. Today, you're going to hear an incredible story of consistency, growth, and grit from right here in Omaha, Nebraska. My guest is Benjamin Schmail with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, who's been in the business for 11 years, and get this, he's consistently closing over 100 transactions a year as a solo agent. But it didn't start that way. In his first year, Ben closed just 6 deals. Year 2, 39 deals. He's built a system-driven business that continues to thrive through market shifts, personal milestones, and everything life throws at him, including having a baby in the middle of one of his best years ever. In this interview, Ben breaks down how he scaled from 6 to 100 plus closings, what systems and habits keep him performing at such a high level, and how he balances business, family, and faith. If you're a real estate agent looking for proven success strategies, insight into market trends, or just a reminder that consistency compounds, this episode is for you. Let's jump into my conversation with Ben Schmail, a teacher and coal miner turned agent who's mastered the art of real estate growth and closing deals with excellence. What kind of early experience shaped your mindset and your work ethic in your real estate business?
I think I just like working, which is a blessing to me, that I think work is a blessing. Some people don't feel that way. I think some people just want to shape their day to get out of doing work. Like that's just fundamentally a part of who they are. Is I'm trying to avoid things that are difficult or work. And I don't know who taught me that it's actually quite enjoyable. So maybe that's just, I was born with it and I'm thankful for that. I certainly have witnessed other people work extremely hard. I watched my father go to a coal mine every day, which I thought he probably had fun doing it until I had to be a coal miner. And then I realized, no, there's no fun to be had. It's actually fairly brutal and miserable. And I think maybe there was a turn in my teenage brain where I realized sometimes work you do out of obligation to take care of those around you. But I'm thankful that I'm doing work in an industry that actually isn't miserable or brutal. I don't even use the word hard to describe real estate. I think it's discouraging, a little frustration. There's a challenge here or there, but it is not hard, and there are people doing quite difficult work and still making the best of it. So I just think I can make the best of the purpose that I've been given, and that's real estate. So I think that's just fundamental, and I maybe I'll give that to my father for displaying that to me.
What do you think your biggest challenge was that you faced early on?
Sure. I think first and foremost, I had some good intrinsic motivation behind why I was trying to get into real estate. So that probably kept me afloat during times that would maybe have been more challenging. But people always say, why did you get into real estate? Isn't that a crazy switch from teaching? And I always say I desire to have more time and more resources to do good things for others. And I hoped that if I could work for myself and do this job well, that the resources would come in at higher intervals than as a school teacher. And I could use my time as I see fit to do good things for others, go to funerals, visit people at hospitals, generally do things during the day that I'd otherwise have to not show up in the classroom. And you're not allowed to not show up in the classroom to go to, random funerals and things like that. So I think that was just kind of like the ribbon that ran through all of it was I was motivated to find something that would give me time and resources that I could turn back to give to others. And I hoped real estate could do that. And it was a worthwhile gamble to say, yes, I think I had a personality that would serve people well in real estate. But on March 15th, every year as a school teacher, you have 2 choices. You either re-sign or resign, and they're spelled the same way. So you better make sure you know which one you mean when you say it. You either re-sign for the rest of that year and then the whole other year, like till Memorial Day of the following year, or you resign, meaning you'll just finish that year. There's like 2 months to go. So I had my license only a few months, and March 15th rolls around and it's resign or resign. And I hoped, it was an optimistic hope is all, that I would be able to figure this out. And I hadn't figured it out yet, because usually a few months with the license isn't enough to have made it yet. But I reasoned with myself, if I got this figured out over the summer and into the fall, there'd be no way to be a really quality school teacher all in during the day and be a really qualified realtor. And so if real estate worked, and I know teaching worked, they'd be in competition with each other. And so with some cautious optimism, I resigned. But I said, you know what? I can just always go, I can be a substitute teacher. I can just take 5 days a week if I want. If real estate just doesn't work, I'll just substitute teach. That'll be fine. I substitute taught 4 times in my entire life, and it was all in that fall to December timeframe. This because I had a former friend teacher that needed it. It wasn't even really for me, because thankfully, with some good mentorship and I put in the work, certainly there was just enough light at the end of the tunnel that I knew real estate was working, so I didn't need to retreat back into really considering teaching again. So it was a cautious hope that I had what it took to make it in this business. But even before the business, I had a little perspective on some realtors I knew, and I said, well, what you did, I don't think is quite the best way to do it, and how you did things. And I saw there was maybe a better, or hopefully a best way to serve consumers. So I saw there was a spot for me. It just took a little bit of it's a risk to see, are you right in thinking you have a spot in this industry?
Well, and it seems to me, just from what you said earlier, as far as that work ethic, that you were going to give it the best shot, and it wasn't going to be because of you and your work ethic that you failed at real estate, right?
True.
So I think that's a huge thing. And again, just being from the outside looking in and seeing this is an industry, and I don't know if all industries are this way. I mean, what is it called? The Percipo? Well, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the 80-20 rule, right?
Mm.
And so this business is more, especially going into the market that we're going into right now. When did you get your license?
2014,
Okay.
spring of, or yeah, maybe January of 14, and then March of 14 was the resign or resign moment.
Okay. So you're obviously going into COVID. That was probably one market that we're all worried about on what was going to happen with the market,
Mm.
but you came in at a pretty good time in the market. I wouldn't call it an automatic market. But 2014 was pretty, because we were done with the 2007, 8,
Mhm.
9, stuff that we went through. But it was a pretty good market. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
times, like a lot of the agents that came in during COVID, and let's say more 20 later into 2020, 2021, again, they didn't learn the skills, right? They didn't
Mm.
learn. I mean, literally, you're sticking houses on the market and they're selling for $30,000, $40,000 more than
Mhm.
what they should be selling for. So, but no, this is good. So you got in 2014. So that means you've been in the business 11 years. When did you start making that consistent income? Was it the first year that you were in it, or that you saw consistency, or did you have a couple years to kind of build up to? Because I know you've been, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been at 100+ transactions for at least 2 years, if not three, right?
Sure. I'll give you the quick rundown. 6 in the first year, 39 in the second year. Most people care most about how do you go from 6 to 39, because that's after the 6, you either kind of flunk out or you make it, and you might not hit 39, but you get your business going. So 639, 3 years in the 50s, and then a year in the 77, then 100 during COVID on the nose, and then a 97, then a 77, then a 63. That was in 2023 when the rates were like 8.25. So a natural slowdown, and we had a baby. And then last year in 2024 was 104, which was the best I'd ever done. And then this year, 2025, I had my 100th closing of the year yesterday, and I have, if they stay together, 17 more to go. So if I add or subtract no more, I'll finish this year at 117.
Nice.
So
Just
the year, when did you start like making it? Uh, Actually, my brother said, I was probably 4 years in. Have you reached the point where next year you're going to be okay? Like, this wasn't a fluke, this wasn't lucky. Because after the year 30, or the second year with 39, I thought maybe I just lucked out, maybe things swung my way. And even a few years in the 50s, I just didn't have enough exposure to see the way I was doing things created some of these results. It wasn't just like a little accident that happened. So I bet it was year 6 when I hit 77, when I thought, you know what, this isn't an accident. I am doing things on purpose that is helping bring these, attracting me to this many clients a year. And I feel sad because I can conjure up the feeling still of new agents who you don't know. It's discouraging, and it's a mystery every year. Am I going to make it this year, or am I not? And maybe people would feel that way after 30 sales, but it probably took me to 77 where I said, okay, I think I think I'll make it. I'm not going to rest on my laurels. I'm not going to, and I didn't stop my effort, but at least I could be confident that next year would still be pretty okay.
Yeah.
So
And
it's a good, but that took years, took 6 years.
right. But here's the thing, though. It's that if you look back at your 11 years of doing this, it's consistency of doing the right things, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really can't connect the dots until the dots are laid, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing is that most real estate agents don't give it enough time of doing the right things so they can prove to themselves that those things work. And I will tell you
Yeah.
right now, I've seen agents that have made cold calling is their number one thing. Door knocking is their number one thing. Eventually, doing those types of activities in the beginning will turn into what you're seeing right now. How much of your business would you say right now, of the 117 transactions you're going to do in 2025,
Mm-hmm.
comes from a database, a CRM?
Sure. It's about 85,
Okay.
maybe not 80 or percent, not numbers, percentage wise, 85 or 90%.
Okay, and then from 100 transactions, that's about 85. And
Good
then
point.
I mean, just I wasn't a math teacher, but were you? Okay, so but if you look at this and you say, one of the questions that I have here is, in order to do the volume that you're doing right now at such a high, I mean, if I were sitting and talking with somebody, I'd say you're going to need an assistant. You're probably going to need
Mhm.
a buyer's agent. You're probably going to need all these things, but what are the systems? What are the tools and the routine? Daily routines and those types of things,
Mhm.
and potentially a CRM. This is all wrapped into one question
Mhm.
that you're using that's helping you manage and operate this system of 117 transactions.
Sure. And there's probably two parts of that. How do you earn the business? And that's a lot of work. And then how do you actually work the business? So, that's two parts. And you got to have both going at the same time. To work the business, I do have an assistant. She doesn't work quite full-time hours. And so you could call her part-time, but I don't want to mislead people and have them think it's like 6 hours a week. It's getting close to 30-ish. So she certainly does transaction coordinating for me. And so that is very helpful to have an assistant working for me. So there's a little, systemization to that when postcards go out after closing and, birthday cards. So, I mean, there's just a system there. In regards with CRM, all I use, and I wish I took better advantage of it than I really do, is Brian Buffini's Referral Maker. It seems like every time I get in a group of agents, people start telling me about the latest, greatest CRM. I just had a mastermind lunch about a month ago. They started saying words that I had never heard of, and they were the names of CRMs that, I mean, literally, these are words I thought were made up gobbledygook, but they were all so hot on what they do with this or that. So I use Referral Maker mostly so I can keep track of the last time I talked to a person, send them a note, pop by, met their baby, what's their new puppy's name. I mean, so it's really just a way to organize my clients' information. So that's the CRM I use. It doesn't send out automated emails for me. There's nothing slick. It doesn't automatically call people. It just helps me remember who people are because I think that's what's most important. I think where I have gotten good and efficient is I'm not going to call them systems. I'm going to call them like processes. So I have a process for everything. It's not visible. It's not written down. I just know when a person expresses even some desire at all of buying a house, I know I need to say these certain things to guide them into my office so we can sit down together, so I can set certain expectations. And so there's just a process in which, it's made easier for me to help a person buy a house because they understand what I understand. They know the things that I know. And so I think the secret that's sort of unseen is I have just efficient but thorough processes to take a person from I want to buy to I became a buyer, I'm thinking of selling to I'm a seller. And a lot of that is just using quality words to educate and set expectations. So there's certainly a lot of secret processes in there.
Okay, so that's your CRM. So what do you do? What are some of your non-negotiables? So I look at things from a standpoint of personal, right? Workout, health. I know
Mm-hmm.
you're a runner and I know you like stairs. Then the family, obviously now that you have a baby role, which has probably helped you with your why, business. What are some non-negotiables? And again, some people are okay with talking about faith, but those are the four pillars for me and my
Mm-hmm.
business. Where do you look and say, okay, taking those one at a time, where would you say are non-negotiables of things that every day Ben wakes up that you're going to make sure that you invest time and energy, maybe money, into
Mhm.
those systems?
I'm going to lead into that. A lot of agents will, once they know you've done 100 transactions or 100 plus, they say, well, are you miserable or do you have a life? Because there's just no way you can actually have any sort of balance, any joy in your life. You're only doing real estate. And they say, because I did 40 sales and I was yanking my hair out last year and I didn't do a single fun thing for me. So I'm going to take that, quantify that times triple, and you really dislike your life. And I always say, I love it, and I think I have more free time and fun time than most. So just to give perspective on that, so people don't think I'm just saying I have a good life outside of selling real estate. Last year, alongside the 104 transactions, my watch told me I exercise 99 minutes a day. I think there's a bit of an exaggeration because if I walk too fast, it says I'm exercising, and I wouldn't call it exercise. But let's say 70 minutes on average of real exercise a day. And I left the state of Nebraska last year 39 times. Doesn't mean I didn't work on those days, but if you've left the state, you are trying pretty hard to not work. You might keep up on a few little things, but you're not building in a work day for yourself. So that's outside of the state of Nebraska. That doesn't count going to York, where my alma mater is at, which is 100 miles. That might use the whole day, but it's not in the 39, or Husker games and some of those other things. So I just want to let people know you can do all the transactions and you can still work out and be healthy and you can still do fun things. And I don't miss church services, Sunday mornings, Sunday evenings, Wednesday evenings. I don't miss birthday parties. I don't miss family dinner on Saturday. I eat typically 2 meals at home every day as a family. We'll have breakfast. I might be home for lunch. I'm always home for dinner. It's a little belated, but we eat dinner together. So you can do all of it. There's a lot of hours in a 24-hour day. People always say there's just not enough time. I think there is a lot of time. You just choose how to, just depends how you use it. So my non-negotiables is the exercise. That's important. The church services. I have personal commitments to York University. There's things my wife and I like to do. And on top of all of that, I always say, and I still wish I didn't waste so much time watching Netflix. So even I could take those 24 hours and get a little bit more out of it. So
Nice.
shame on me. There's a little too much Netflix being watched.
So do you?
Now, just so people know, I do wake up at 4:10 and I do go to bed at 11. So people are like, okay, so you're actually only asleep for 5 hours. And I say that is correct. But I go to sleep fast and I wake up when it's time to wake up. So yeah, I have the other 19 hours to try to do good things with, and there's probably an hour or two of those 19 that I waste, and I could be more efficient doing or do something productive.
Therein is the secret, right there. Wake up early, go to bed late. Do you use a schedule? Do you run other than like putting your appointments on? But do you? So I taught. So here's what I teach, and I want you to see how your what if there's any correlation to what you're doing. So I teach the perfect week, right? And so to
Mhm.
me is you need to establish a kind of a default how you're going to run your week. And it should be the same every single week, right? When are you going to go on your appointments, working with buyers and sellers? Obviously, buyers is a little bit different because it's when they need to see a home. And then, when do date night, working out, morning routine, that type of stuff. Do you have a routine? Like if I looked at your last week and I look at this week, is it pretty identical of what your schedule looks like? And then what do you use for a schedule?
Sure. I'll admit I've been accused many times of being more disciplined than I really am. People have just presumed or accused me of that because they jump to the conclusion you're time blocking because anyone who does this is obviously time blocking. So just tell me how you block your time. And I say, well, I don't. So I'm just letting that out of the bed. I don't time block. I don't time block for prospecting. We should talk about what prospecting is and how you do it where you don't have to time block for it. But in my calendar, it's not in there. I will wake up at 4:10. I'll work out for my hour. That's not in the calendar. I don't have to schedule things when other people are asleep because it doesn't matter what I do when everyone else is asleep. Church services don't have to go on the calendar because I know they always exist. But the actual work day, I could probably grow in that way to say I always do the emails not the first hour. That's a no-no. Save emails for after lunch, and everyone says you do 2 hours of this. And I, I just believe real estate is a lifestyle, meaning my life has to fit into the lives of others, and I don't always get to control what my clients' lives hold and when they're available. So I will show houses when homes need to be shown, but that's rarely after 6 p.m. So it's not like I'm letting my time be taken. Sellers want to meet at 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock or 3 o'clock. I think when they want to meet is great for me, unless I'm already doing something for another client or I'm going to go to York or volunteer or do something else. So, I mean, there's no structure to it except I better work out, I better go to church, I better eat when I'm hungry. And the rest of the time, I'm balancing the needs of my clients and my own. So, but I think when I've talked about balance before other times, and some people think work-life balance means you're on one side of the scale, it's all work. And then the other side is no work at all, and you have to segregate them specifically, and you can't do both at the same time. I think you can do both of them kind of all of the time, and you're going to have to do this volume of transactions. So I can drink coffee and recreate and relax, and also be writing some handwritten notes to clients or making notes about the babies that were born recently and who they were, and I got to take them some baby wipes. So I'm advancing my cause with my clients, but guess what? I'm also going to a coffee shop that I'd like to sit at and drink a cup of coffee. So you actually get to put work and play at the same time on the scale.
And
So
my
that's
guess
how my
is at the
calendar
same
looks.
time you're doing all this, that's where your prospecting is coming in.
So, dirty little secret, if you don't time block or door knock or take 15 hours dedicated a week to prospect, like, well, how you get in your business? Well, if I was spending 15 hours a week doing a prospecting type activity, I wouldn't be able to keep up with the other things I want to do in life that aren't real estate or be able to keep up with the real estate. So I am incredibly blessed that I've never really had to engage in what are the typical prospecting methods, which are a numbers game and take time. I believe you are prospecting or finding people to want to hire you every minute that you're awake, and I'll give you some examples. So when I work out with a group of guys every morning. I'm not the only person who wakes up at 4:10, and we're working out together. So we know what each other do. Like, we just get to know each other. We know each other's occupations. I've never marketed to that group. I've never said, "Hey, if you ever have a need," or "I can be your realtor." Those words have never crossed my lips. But what I have done is be dedicated, be on time, put in great work ethic. If whatever exercise we're doing, I hope I win that exercise. I hope people see, hey, you are putting in a serious amount of work here. You're dedicated to what you do. When you finish early, you encourage us. You're kind of an all around, you're a good guy. You put in a great effort. And I don't have a real estate need, but when they do have a real estate need in 2 years from now, you know who they want to hire? A person who's good at what they do, cares about them, is competent, has character, is putting a good work ethic. And so I believe I'm prospecting or generating future clients just by doing things well and by being kind and saying, "Hey, how'd your kid's basketball game go? You mentioned last week." So I think in everything you do, you can be endearing or drawing clients closer to you to get to know you better, to like you, to trust you, then hire you, and eventually refer you. So you don't have to spend 15 hours pursuing strangers or door knocking. I just spend 5 hours a week or 6 or 7 working out with my buddies. And I have closings every year from people who just said, "I like you. You've demonstrated things about you that are likable." So the best part is I was going to work out anyways. Whether I was getting business out of it, I would have gone and worked out and had a wonderful time doing it. And so if you can do what you want to do and enjoy what you're doing, and it's not work, it's play. But when you play well enough, people say, "I want to hire you on this side of the scale." You don't have to spend 15 extra hours on top of that.
Right.
So that's the
Right.
secret. Prospect doing the things you already are going to do and want to do. And I think what you say on social media, how you greet people, how you work out, all the things you're doing are demonstrating you're a good person I should hire if you are in an industry I will need eventually, or if I ever needed that type of person, I would never choose you. You've demonstrated things. I wouldn't want you as my attorney. You would never be my accountant. I'm not going to have you paint my house because you're real sloppy and disorganized, and you rip on past clients you had in your free time when we're jogging. So you're just demonstrating things that make you not the best hire.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah,
it just,
absolutely
you live
makes
a life in a way
sense.
that is drawing clients to you, and then you do that by doing the fun things you already
Right.
want to do.
Yeah. And I think it's, at the same time, it's, one of the things that we try to stay in the habit of doing is, when you're sitting down a listing appointment or if you're sitting down with a buyer, is to ask that magic question. and just making sure that, again, you want to be top of mind, right? I mean, you wouldn't be doing 100 transactions a year if you weren't doing things throughout the year that
Mhm.
kept you top of mind when
Mhm.
they ran into somebody who was going through some life event, whether it's
Mhm.
having a baby, or, parents passed away and they need help with an estate situation or whatever it is. It's always being top of mind. So,
Mhm.
and being a good person, right? You don't want
Mhm.
to be, you could be top of mind and be terrible, right? That is the
Mhm.
reason why
Mhm.
Linda is the face of our business. Because if I was the one that was top of mind, we wouldn't be doing as well as we do right now with her. So, but anyhow, all right.
I spend a lot of time staying top of mind. If I
Yeah.
have free time or in my work day, there's not appointments or other tasks, and I have a moment to think, the first place my brain goes is, what should I do next to stay in touch with the client, remind them I still care? Is there a new way to do that, a new idea I've never tried? What is the appropriate postcard I should mail out next month that is both valuable and reminds people I'm still in business and I still care about them? So I think I have done a good job just coming up with ways to make sure people know that I'm still doing this and I still care about them. And that's when I said I have processes, not really systems, processes. And with every new buyer, when we're sitting down together, I always say, this is not meant to be an 8-week experience where you get a house and you're pretty happy about that, and I make an income and I can be happy about that too, and then everything stops. It's not meant to be that way. 8 weeks, you're happy, I'm happy, we break up. I'd like to be a part of your life for a very, very long time, and I want to serve you as a homeowner just as skillfully as a client. And so, as a homeowner, there'll be things you don't know, questions you have, things will come up. You should always think of me first. You don't have to solve things you don't know how to solve. Figure out, who do I call to fix something? I don't know what's wrong with this yet. I said, just think of me first. You just ask me, it'll never bother me. I'll tell you what to do, who you should call, set some expectations. So I just say, you think of me. Well, when someone else says, hey, I need something on my roof fixed, or I'm thinking of moving, guess who they think of first? Me. And not because I said, think of me when you have friends that want to buy or sell. I say, think of me when you need anything related to being a homeowner. And I love that clients take that seriously. And I get a little, frustrated when someone puts on Facebook, hey, does anyone know a good plumber? We're having this issue. And I'm like, why would you ask Facebook for a plumber? I begged you and pleaded you to ask me for a plumber. So that's where I know I have not sent that message strongly enough. You don't need to solve things. You just need to think of me. Funny
Hmm.
story. I had some first time buyers this April, and he called me, and I saw he called me a few weeks after closing. And I figured this is the first of the, what do I do about these scenarios? And I had hail falling on my car because I was driving home, and I knew where he lived, and he had hail falling on his house. So he called me and he said, hey, Ben, it's hailing on our house right now. And you always said I should call you if I don't know what to do. So it's hailing actively on my roof. Should I call my insurance company right now, or should I wait for the hail to stop? And I said, thank you for taking that so seriously that you're going to call me for help. But literally in the hailstorm, they were like, I'm calling Ben because I've never had hail hit my roof before. And of course, I said, settle down. You don't need to call anybody. Let's let the hail stop. Let's get a roofer out next week. But he took it so seriously in the middle of the hailstorm. He's like, I'm calling Ben because I don't know. He said I should call him about anything. So so that I say that the first appointment, I remind people of that. This is a good one, just kind of a practical piece on the coldest day of the year after a person bought their home. So if you buy a home in March, you're not going to have the coldest day in your home until the calendar goes back around till January, February. On that coldest day, the polar vortex, I text every client and I say, this is the coldest day you've ever owned your home. I don't know if you've realized that. And these cold temperatures do really freaky things to houses. So are you okay? I just want to make sure, did your house anything funny happen? I get such good dialogue from that because people say, actually, my kid's room has frost in the window and I wasn't sure if I should bug you. What do I do? I say, turn down your humidifier and then look at it in a few mornings from now. On the hottest day of the year, hey, homes do really freaky things when it's this hot. Are you okay? Is your AC keeping up? So you can think of lots of ways to just reinsert yourself in a person's life that is meaningful and valuable. And then, of course, they stick me in their friends' lives when their friends need a realtor too.
Yeah.
So that's prospecting to
Good.
me. Is your house okay? It's really cold out. I can send those texts drinking coffee. I can send those texts when I'm taking a break, breathing while I'm doing some workout. That's prospecting. It fits right in the middle of all the other fun things I'm doing. And those are meaningful connections with my clients.
And you love doing it. So that's the
I
other
totally
part
love
is
it.
you love doing it. So
And I
yeah.
don't like making calls. I bet I've made less than 100 phone calls of a pure prospecting nature in 11 years. And some people are like, I do 100 a day. Shame on you, Ben. And I said, that's
Shame on
fine. I don't
you.
want to make those phone calls. And if it's getting you 117 homes, then it's perfect for you. But if it's not, maybe there's a better way that you actually enjoy, your clients actually enjoy. And if it fits in your life easier, better, you don't have to time block it. You can do it while drinking coffee, walking your dog, and exercising. Good. You have a pretty good life going now.
Good for you. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm only on question number 4 here. So this is good.
Wow.
You're giving me great. This is great content. I know whoever listens to this is going to be extremely. It's awesome stuff. So now let's look at like your buyer relationship when you're working with a buyer or you're working with a seller. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We call it kind of offering a world-class
Mm.
experience. So, taking that buyer through that process, taking that seller through that process. What would you say there's things that you do for every seller and what you do for every buyer?
Sure. You used the word world class, and I took a moment to think, I hope I'm meeting that standard, but that's a high standard, a world class experience. So I hope I'm getting close to that. The numbers might say you're serving people well, but world class is an interesting standard. So I have to consider if I'm meeting the expectation or not.
Let me tell you
Um,
something.
mhm.
People lie, numbers don't. Okay. When you're closing 117 transactions, I'm going to tell you you're doing something right.
Okay,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
fair. So there's some standard I'm meeting. I'll take
Yeah.
that. If you go to my reviews, which I like to read and I like to respond to those, the reason I do that is because it might tell me things about me that I didn't know were as valuable to clients as I realized. I mean, so when I look at the themes that come out of reviews, meaning people really, really like these things about you, education always comes out. I'm educating them, setting really good expectations, answering their questions in ways that are very patient and gives them an appropriate answer. I just this morning actually had questions for a contractor about a project we have going on, and I asked him. He answered. I didn't understand his answer. I re asked the question. He looked annoyed. He re answered the question the same way. And I thought, if I actually ask this a third time, I'm gonna reveal to him I'm the dumbest person on the planet, or he's gonna give me a dirty look, and that's awkward for both of us. So I really said in my mind, he didn't answer my question very well. I don't have the answer I need to process what to do next, but I don't think I'm allowed to ask him a third time. I'll try to figure it out another way. I hope my clients never feel that way in the education they're getting when they're comfortable asking the question and then they get a very good answer. And that might be heart of a teacher in me. I just am better at educating people in a way that makes sense. There is tons of education, viewing the house, what problems exist in the home, see this crack. It's the scariest crack you've ever seen because you've never seen one. Let me give you some perspective. 5 houses later, here's the worst crack you really have ever seen. That first crack doesn't look so bad. I mean, so just that's all going on all the time, expectations and education. So I think that's a part of the experience that comes out. People always say, I never felt pressured by you. I felt like you were serving my interest. That's a theme that comes out. And then no one likes a realtor who feels like their guidance is half or even sometimes completely benefiting the realtor and at no benefit to the client. So that comes out a lot. And I always say there's no rush for me. It's not meant to be the 8-week experience where you get the house and you're happy and I get paid and I'm happy. It doesn't have to be 8 weeks. It doesn't need to be 18 years. We got to have some efficiencies involved, but I think people know Ben's in it for me as long as it takes. And the third piece that comes out is, and Ben is still there for me. I bought my home X amount of weeks ago, months, years ago, and Ben is still there for me. He popped in the other day and brought me pumpkin bread and asked me about my frosted windows. He brought over his mobile AC unit because I told him ours wasn't keeping up and we can't get service for a week. And so that's the other piece. Ben doesn't go away. But that was a very, very conscious decision I made back at CBS Home. We were together or at the same company, and I listened to agents who'd been in the business for decades say, I drove by so-and-so's home and you wouldn't believe it. They had a for sale sign in the yard with some other realtor and the realtor was upset. And then as they talk, they say, I sent them, I think every few years, or I don't know, 5 years ago, I sent them a Husker magnet. I mean, what? Why would they not hire me? I took care of them good 30 years ago, and they've gotten 5 magnets from me in the last 30 years. And they had the audacity to either forget about me or think another realtor cares about them more. So when I had no transactions at all, I thought, oh, so if you don't actually keep in touch with people, they'll probably forget about you. So before you have any clients at all, purpose to yourself, Ben, to remember the first one and stay with the first one and the second one. So that's the other leg of the stool is I'm here for you for a very, very long time. And I do say to every client, there are some weeks I do more work for past clients than I do for current clients. And work for current clients makes an income. Work for past clients doesn't immediately produce an income. And I'm very okay with that. And you will be a past client, a homeowner eventually. And there are weeks I'll do more work for you and other people like you than I'll go make money on an immediate basis. And I'm okay with it if you're okay with that. And most people are like, yeah, that didn't even know I wanted that in a realtor. Didn't know you could even have that. Yes, I want that, and I want you in my life for a long time.
You
So
know,
that's part. Those are the three pieces of the world-class experience. Education, there's no pressure, and I'm not going away. You get me for a very, very long time.
you did a very good job of articulating what probably every top producer does without really
Hmm.
knowing that they're doing it, right? So when I'm now, this is just my mindset because I'm real I don't know what I can't think of the right word. But when I look at mechanics, I say, okay, for a listing, we will stage your home. We
Hmm.
will, clean your home. We will, Linda does, I'll show up for appointments. I'll open the house for people if you're not there, whatever, those types of things. But I like the way that you articulated that because when I mirror what Linda does, because the thing is, again, I obviously only have that experience because I work with her, is
Hmm.
that she does an amazing job, far better than what I would do because I probably don't have the patience of it, right? And so anyhow, but great, that what a great answer. I've never said this in any of my interviews with that was a
Hmm.
great answer. So, again, doing as many transactions as you do, and again, now not looking at just the transactions that you do, but also then articulating, how you also help your past clients. How do you protect your specific time, maintain balance? Now having, a baby. You have a son, right? A son,
Yeah, 2-year-old named Harold.
2 year old. So how do you balance? And again, we talked a little bit about what your philosophy of balance was, but spending time with your with your wife, obviously that's the main relationship. Then you have your son of 2 years old. I mean, again, 2 year old, I mean, they're with you. When they start getting older, you'll start to notice a little bit difference in how your time is spent. But
Hmm.
how do you maintain all of that?
It's tough. And you're right. Some people say the volume of transactions. I just thought you just like sold people home. They don't realize, except the 117 current clients in 1 year go into a pot of an extra 117 people on top of 600 other people
Right.
who still they'd be, unless they move away so far away I can't access them. Like they're still there. So that side of the business called just caring about you as a homeowner grows every time this number grows. So yeah, it certainly is a workload that, the tip of the iceberg is the 117 sales. It's everyone that's ever bought a home over the last 11 years rounds out the rest of it. And so yes, it is challenging. Though I will say, well, I will tell people work begins when I wake up, and that's 4:10, and it ends when I go to bed. But for all the time in between, I am managing my clients' needs and my own. And so my own means fun stuff, family stuff, church stuff, York stuff. Uh, and I guess, and I'll be vulnerable. It would be nice if I could give 2 uninterrupted hours to a specific pursuit, but I know there's dozens of clients a week that need a plumber's name, someone's name. And so you might get 25 minutes and then an interruption, and 17 minutes and then an interruption. Uh, that's where I could probably grow, is finding a system that let me take 2 uninterrupted hours for something other than real estate, and then be able to catch myself up, with those tasks. I have a very gracious wife who also has a family business, so we do understand your clients' needs are important, and they go on all of the time, and you have needs, and there has to be some graciousness between clients and or customers and the business and the family members. There used to be an old joke or a kind of a joke in her family. What was the craziest place someone in her family ever sold something? They sell banking equipment because your customers don't know where you're at when they call you to say, I need to buy a new ATM or whatever. So you could be on the Matterhorn in Switzerland. They don't know you're there. They just say, hey, I got to buy something today. So we appreciate that work does take place in all sorts of funny places, but I'm glad we all embrace that, because some realtors say, oh, I can't go out ever do something fun because I'm not allowed to let my clients know I'm having fun, or I'm not allowed to take a break because aren't my clients going to be mad? I think, no, they're not going to be mad. They're probably going to be happy for you
Right.
as long as you're still taking care of their needs. Now, you've been in real estate enough. Have someone call you and say, hey, I can't get a hold of my realtor. It's been 3 days. Can't you show me your listing? And now our realtor disappeared. They're on vacation. I can't get a hold of them. I think that's the problem. It's when you say, hey, I'm going on vacation. I'm going to York. I'm going to be a half day at the Husker game. You just should know that. So I'll attend to you on all the important things and just be patient with me. So,
Well, and I think too, once you do that, once you establish that and let them know, it's that what's an emergency, right? Whatever they have, whatever they need, if they need something right now, it's an emergency. It may not be an emergency. I believe that there's nothing in real estate that is an emergency, right? I mean, it's not something that can't be handled in an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. I mean, obviously, when we went through COVID and houses were selling, with multiple offers, and you had to get that buyer in there and get them to look at it right away. But again, that's an anomaly in this business, at least the 28 years that I've been doing it. But all right.
I will say, I
So,
think what's helpful is things like not showing each person 30 houses. I mean, if you peel back a lot of your time that then you can give to the other things that are important when you have a pretty efficient process. So if
right.
I help set expectations, there's 8 homes listed every Friday that interest you. And I learned this the hard way when a person said 8 listings are for sale. I got to see all 8. And I should have said, well, tell me which one's in 8th place, 7th, 6th, 5th, and 4th, because no one ever buys their 8th place house or the 5th place house, or probably not even the 3rd place house. And you hate the 8th place one. So why don't we just go 1 and 2? Because you might buy one of those, you'll never buy the other 6. And
Yeah.
so just that early, that conversation 4 months ago saves me from when we start looking in a few months from now on a Friday, hey, Ben, can we see these 2 houses? What doesn't happen now is, can't we see all 8? And I'm supposed to go out and do something important with family. And I can do 1 hour of work before family stuff, but I can't do 4 hours of work. And I think that maybe that's where I've been able to balance everything is we do the work that is needed as important, but we're not just misusing time and taking it away from the other people that are more important,
And don't
clients
you
and
think
some
that
of the other
starts in the
pursuits that I have.
conversation? Don't you think that starts in the setup? Like if you're first
Oh,
meeting a
yeah.
buyer, you're setting expectations. When you first meet with a seller, you're setting
hmm
expectations.
Yeah, that's all. That's the education. And I've said this enough time, agents in our office probably get sick of it. I always say, advice given when there's nothing to gain or nothing to lose is just called information. And that's the best time for people to hear it.
Hmm.
So if I tell you in advance, if there's 8 homes for sale and they're all going to sell fast during COVID, but there's an 8th place one you don't like, we're not going to look at the 8th place home. Why would we do that? That would interfere with the 2 homes you actually really like. Well, if I say that way in advance, they get it. If they just say, there's 8 homes, I got to see all of them, I need you right now. And then I say, you know what actually makes more sense? We don't see 8, and here's the reason why. It feels like I just don't want to show them 8 houses, which
Right.
I wouldn't because I know it's silly. But in that moment, that is me looking after my interest, taking my time back, not helping them not be worn out by looking at too many houses at once. Five weeks ago, we're looking at no houses. So it's just information and it's advice, and they receive it better. So any expectation you set in advance is best. The other example, when inspections got to be eliminated so often on real estate transactions, the worst time to tell a buyer, there's some reality here that this lovely house you might want to buy, you don't get to know anything more about it. There's not an inspection to be had. Whatever you don't know about this house, you're still not going to know about this house. And I hope you want to buy it. The worst time to do that is when they really love the house and they're nervous about buying it. And you're like, hey, I want you to buy this house because I want the commission check. Why don't you just dump the inspection so that you become the winner so that I get a commission check? We wrap this thing up. Horrible. 5 weeks in advance. Here's how the market's like. And have you heard about how fast moving, and have you heard of your friends talk about inspections being eliminated sometimes? When there's no house on the line, they receive it like information. When there's
Hmm.
something they want on the line and something you want on the line, and then you're giving them advice that's counter to what they think is best for them, horrible.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think I'm setting those expectations almost accidentally now just by doing this enough that paves the way for challenges that I will never have months and weeks from now.
Right. Well, I believe that we say and do things that at least the agents that have done this long enough. Uh, we say and do things that are in the best interest of our clients, even though they may not think that they're in the
Hmm.
best interest of them, right?
Yes.
Because of the experience, because of how
Hmm.
many bad experiences you have had that you've learned from them to create your current presentation, whether it's with a buyer or a seller, right?
Hmm.
So this wasn't a question I was going to ask you, but I would like your perspective on it. In today's market, where we're at, obviously the market has started this year to make a shift, right?
Hmm.
We all think that interest rates are going to come down because the Fed has said they are going to, which they're not. And there's a lot more to read into that. I got a good video that's coming out that'll help you with that. But I think the thing is, what are you seeing? So when you look at the 117, what would you
Hmm.
say percentage wise were sellers and buyers?
Sure. Of the 117, 63 were buyers, leaving 54 as listings.
Okay.
So add them together,
So you have
117.
a good perspective on both. So
Hmm.
where would you say when it comes to pricing a home right now in
Hmm.
Omaha, Nebraska,
Hmm.
probably anywhere, okay? But specifically for Omaha, Nebraska, are you saying anything different today than maybe you said during COVID time period when it comes to the price?
People are saying the prices are coming down, or we have to lower the prices to sell the same home we would have a year ago. I don't believe that's the case. I think the prices are staying the same, but the home condition has to be better for a person to buy a home at that price. So the split entry, which is common, those are kind of easy to track. They were selling for 270 and they still sell for 270. But if last year or the year before, you could have a home in rougher shape where the seller didn't do touch-up painting, didn't clean well, didn't prepare their home, and they got the 270. You still get the 270. You're not going backwards at 260, but you're going to have to do much deeper cleaning, much more touch-up painting. So to me, I think it's not the prices, it's there's more effort required on the seller's behalf because there's more choices for buyers. There's less. I mean, there's more. It's not going as fast. Buyers get to be pickier, and so they're not going to put up with certain things. Now, go back 5 years ago, sellers would say, "Do I have to do this? Do I have to do that?" And I would say, "No. I know it seems you don't have to fix that in order to sell your home for a lot higher price than you're expecting." And then as it slowed down a little, I would say, it needs to be passable. That's a fair target. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's got to be better than it was, but we're looking for passable. Well, now we're starting to teeter towards, yeah, that thing has to be nicer. You can't ignore the trim. You can't just, touch up the trim. That piece that's damaged probably has to be replaced. So to me, I see that as really the changes. Your home has to just be better than it needed to demand the same value, what would be the appropriate value for the house.
Right,
So
right. So,
preparation's key. So, I mean, this has been the case for forever, but it's just extra needed now when buyers are pickier.
mhm.
Sellers, your home needs to be much better prepared.
All right. So
I
my
mean,
last
do
question.
you think prices are dropping? Some people say,
I
oh,
think
they're
so.
dropping a lot.
I've always said that what sells a house is three things: price, condition, and location,
Oh,
right?
sure.
The thing that you have control over is condition, right? And if you have a seller that's unwilling, as an example, Linda's got one house right now. Again, it falls into that 270 price range. And these owners have all antiques and a
Mm,
lot of it, right? So even though the house is in good condition, right? You take everything out, great condition,
mm-hmm,
you can't see it, right? So and it's in a great location. It's in a cul-de-sac. It's got a good yard in the back. It's a great family home. And but sometimes you just can't see it because of something that is probably controllable, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And the seller, again, this is again always when you're going in the beginning, is that this seller is, they're you go in sometimes not wanting to hurt people's feelings, right? And I think at the same time that's where I probably have a weakness, right? Because I would rather tell somebody that they what they need to hear, and there's a
Hmm.
way to deliver that in a way that I can give you a hug afterwards and say, you know what, let's not don't hate me, but I'm trying to prepare you for the market, right? There's one way to put the house when you live in it, and then there's another way to sell it, right? And
Oh
that
yeah.
has a lot to do with colors. It has, again, all these things that we know. But at the same time, I think that when you look at that, there's depending upon the market, like using COVID as an example, there is a higher demand for those categories, condition and location. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, location, if you back up to power lines or a busy street, there's nothing you can do about that, right? I mean,
Right.
it is what it is. Hopefully you got the discount when you bought the house,
Yeah.
because the thing is you're not going to get the discount right now. And I think it's really, also going in and then paving out the expectations, right? So it's like, if you're not going to get it what you think the house is going to sell at, you need to prepare them for price reductions. And you need, like what
Hmm.
you just said, the conversation earlier. You said the conversation earlier is that it's advice, right? You said advice. You want to talk
Given with
about this
nothing to gain or
before,
nothing to lose information.
right? So I think you're spot on. And like right now, Linda has, she has 5 houses in inventory, which is kind of
Hmm.
making her freak out a little bit. But at the same time, there was a time in 2002 or three where I had 16 houses in inventory, right? And that's what we called inventory, right? This is an
Hmm.
inventory business. And but at the same time, it is what it is, and you're going to start to see expired, you're going to start to see
Hmm.
canceled, and that's mainly with real estate agents, I believe, that are not having the conversations before they have to have the conversations.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I think that's key.
Agree.
All right, so my last question for you:
Hmm.
if you were mentoring a new or struggling agent right now, what advice would you give them to gain momentum and consistency?
I get that question a lot. Just new agents will say, "Hey, help me. I'm struggling." And I always say, it's hard for me to put myself exactly in your shoes, but how about I answer it this way? If I move to Chicago, Indianapolis, you pick a place that I don't know anybody and no one knows I'm good at real estate, what should I do? Because I would go from 117 homes in Omaha. Next year in Indianapolis, I bet I would sell 10 if I was lucky. Not because I'm not good at real estate. No one knows it and no one knows me. So to me, that is a framework that is in my mind would be I really have to go back to the basics and say, what do I do to try to sell a lot of real estate in a new place? These are what agents are doing in their own communities or just too new to real estate. So I always say I would continue to get to know people in ways that are valuable to you. I'd go to Indianapolis. I'd join every running club. I'd go one every day of the week and two on the weekends. Because guess what? It's a people business. If people don't know you, they can't like you, they can't trust you, they can't hire you, they can't refer you. So I think realtors get hung up on, a guy asked me the other day, do you have the whole contract memorized? Is that why you're so successful? And I said, if I would have memorized the whole contract tonight, no, I wouldn't be any better at real. Probably be worse because I misused my time studying it, memorizing a document. I said, so no, I don't have the. Please don't go memorize our contract. You don't need to do that to get any better at real estate, but you do need to advance a relationship with a person. Endear yourself a little more to a person. So you can't do that if no one knows you. You don't have any friends. So if I were new, I'd make sure I'm continuing to get to know people and being kind and sincere and remembering their names and writing them down in a notebook and my phone, whatever I needed to do. So when I see them at my gym in 2 weeks, I can say to them, hey, how did your camping trip go? And they'll say, wow, Ben's a great guy. I can't believe he remembered I went on a camping trip. Now they're not buying a house today. They might not buy a house next year, but you do enough of those. And when their aunt needs to buy a house, you know what they say? Aunt, I've got a really great, he's a friend now, acquaintance. He's a friend. He's a great guy. You ought to call him. Well, that's because you remember their name, remember their camping trip, kept talking to them. I had my 100th closing yesterday from people I was not their realtor, but I met them 8 years ago, and 3 years ago saw them at a restaurant, went up to them and said, "Are you guys who I believe you are? We barely met like 5 years ago. How's your life? How's your house, which you bought with another realtor that wasn't me?" And they told me yesterday, "When you did that 3 years ago, we told ourselves when we go to do another real estate transaction, it will be with Ben. We're so delighted he remembered us." So those are the things you have to do to win the hearts of people over. So any new realtor needs to be doing those things. Now, does that get you rich quickly? No. But I've never been in the business to get rich quick. I've been in the business to serve people well for a very, very long time. So that's part of it, the people. And then early on, by a competency standpoint, you can read books, you can watch videos, you can listen to some lectures. You'll probably never learn more than you would learn sitting and watching somebody do these things. So I can tell you about my buyer appointment, and you'll get 10% of good information out of that. If you sit with me, you'll get 100% because you get to see why I'm saying things, how I'm saying things. So my knowledge increased greatly when I went from having a mentor that I talked to having a mentor that I actually witnessed them talking to their clients. But again, you can know all the real estate information. If no one likes you because you don't know anybody, like I wouldn't know anybody in Indianapolis, you better start there. And ideally, you're doing that in a way you really, really enjoy. And for me, I would join exercise clubs. I find a great church congregation. I'd be so desperate for friends. I'd go want to make friends everywhere. And guess what? Your friends become your clients when you're good at what you do and you stay a part of their lives. So that's a long haul.
Likability
That's the long haul, but we're trying to make it in the real estate business, not just sell a house today. I think,
right?
and if you're just trying to get rich quick today, you probably won't. So there
No,
you go.
no, you're right. Well, this was a great interview.